Okay, so this is the introductory video of my quantitative analysis class for you guys. So I'm going to go over the introduction slides that will explain the class. We'll explain everything that we have going on, and hopefully answer any questions that you have. If you have questions that are not answered, then always feel free to email me. No problem there. So I got my plant earrings on. I got my Zoom up. I am ready to go. I'm excited to be teaching your class this semester. So let's hop to it. All right. Hopefully you should be able to see. Let's give it a minute here. Hopefully you can see my screen there. So for this video, I'm going to do an introduction of myself, give you a sense of who I am, my teaching philosophy, so what kind of teacher you're going to have here with me, and then the course objectives, a overview of the syllabus that does not supplant reading the syllabus. You have to go and read the syllabus in more detail, and that'll be used for your first quiz. And then some tips on how to succeed in this class and some resources that I have available to you to succeed in this class. All right, so let's get to it. So who am I? I am Roxanne Ross. You can call me Miss Ross. That's fine. Professor Ross, most people call me that. So I am from Boulder, Colorado. It is a weird and wonderful land. That's a picture of it there. I went to undergrad there at CU Boulder for psychology and economics. I almost did sociology as an undergrad, but now I'm kind of doing the sociology stuff as a grad student. But I did love sociology as an undergrad as well. So after I did my undergrad, I went on walkabout and I wandered around in New Zealand. I lived in a van actually for a couple of months, which was a hoot. If you ever want to know how I did that, then please reach out to me. You can do a work study. I almost said study abroad. It's not study abroad. It's where you go and you work for as a traveler in New Zealand. So you can get a work permit for, I don't know, a year or something like that if you're under 30 and go make a little cash. I worked in a kiwi factory. That was fun. I was packing kiwis that get sent all over the world from New Zealand. Earned a little pocket cash that way and then drove around in a van after that. I went to Australia. That's that picture with those little wallabies there. They're so cute. So tiny. They had little wallabies sticking out of their pouches. And I was feeding them with their these little mouths that come up and eat food right out of your hand. And then we went to Thailand after. It was great. So if you have a chance, do it. Do it before you get sucked into the work world. You could even do it in a summer break if you wanted. Anyway, that's that. So now I'm here. I'm in North Carolina. I love the mountains here. I love all the adventure here. I like to go rock climbing, like to go backpacking. The landscape actually reminds me a little bit of New Zealand, in fact. But yeah, I've been loving North Carolina. And I'm currently finishing up my organizational science PhD and should be out in the world after this semester with the doctorate. So I am studying business ethics. Specifically, I'm studying how people operate in terms of ethical behavior in the workplace. So why do people make unethical choices at work? And how do organizational cultures influence people's ability to operate ethically, or maybe encourage people to operate unethically in the workplace? So why did Wells Fargo happen? Why did the employees across all these different branches at Wells Fargo create the millions of fake accounts? I don't view that as a failing of those individual employees. It seems like it's a cultural problem, that the culture of the organization was encouraging employees to make these fake accounts because of how they were structuring their policies and their norms and how leaders were engaged in sort of encouraging these unethical behaviors. So that's what I'm studying. If you ever want to talk about corruption in a business context, I'm the person to talk to. I'd love to Love to chat about that anytime. And then, of course, leaders are an extremely important component of just businesses in general, but also understanding how corruption spreads and how it can be stopped. So I look at the leadership component in addition to the kind of cultural perspective as well. So that's where my sociology angle comes in. And then, of course, organizational science is an interdisciplinary program where we focus on org soc as well. So if you have any questions about grad school in organizational sociology, then I can talk to you about that as well, or just grad school in general, or grad school in psychology as well, because we do IO psychology in the OS program. Okay, anyhow, so my teaching philosophy, I focus on student empowerment. That's my first and primary motivation, my primary driver as a teacher. Every decision I make is aimed at improving the students' welfare and the students' well-being, including teaching the class online because I don't want people to get infected from my class. So all the decisions I make, to know that it's for your benefit. And I try to structure the class and listen to you guys if there are things that I can do to better provide some value here for this course. So that brings me to my second component, which is dynamism. So I'm always trying to change and adapt and improve so I can better meet your needs. So I like to ask students what their needs are, if I can meet their needs better, and change the course accordingly or change my approach accordingly. So if you have any questions or comments or things that come up, I want to know about it, especially given the weird format that we have this year, the online format and coronavirus and everything. The pandemic, that little minor detail over there. So then the last component is skill development, married with content. And so the key thing with that part of my teaching philosophy is that I don't want it just to be lecture, you take notes, it's boring, you write down the notes and you regurgitate what you learn later in the test. That stinks. That's not what the real world is like, right? In the real world, we're using our skills. We are learning how to do something, and then we're applying that knowledge in different contexts. So in this class, you're going to be learning a fairly specific skill of data analysis and understanding social science data, understanding critical thinking skills, so that you can use data to generate new knowledge. So exciting. I love that. That's why I love quantitative analysis. I love all forms of analysis, quantitative and qualitative, but so amazing that you can gather all this quantitative data and generate knowledge and understanding using it. So that's the skill we're developing in this class. And then that brings me to my course objectives. So we're going to be doing a few things in this class. We're trying to understand the purpose of using statistics to make sense of social phenomena. So that's what I was talking about there. So it's not just that we have data, we need to use statistics to make sense of those data. And then we also, building off of that, are going to be determining which statistical tests can be used depending on the research question and depending on the type of data. So depending on what we're trying to figure out, what is the most appropriate test. Then analyzing raw data using R. So that R is going to be our software that we're using to analyze data. R is free, R is super flexible. I absolutely love R. It's a steep learning curve. So we're going to get through that steep learning curve together. But after that, oh, it's just great. You can do anything in R. I'm doing all kinds of weird stuff in R that you can't do in other programs. In fact, I actually found some code that you can run to make R play a Star Wars song for you. So it's a very flexible software system. It's kind of like computer programming light, but I don't want to scare anybody with that because we're going to walk through it. We're going to take it apart so it's not scary. So don't worry about that. And so then lastly, interpreting and generating meaning from the results of your statistical analysis. So that's That's the juicy part. That's the best part. You're not just running these tests and, "Oh, okay, I did the test, great." You're generating meaning from those tests. You're making knowledge with your statistical analyses. This is why I'm such a nerd about this stuff, because you get to make meaning out of this. You get to take a bunch of random data that's hard to make sense of and make some sense out of it and make some order out of it and answer some research questions. It's just so cool. Some of you are probably at this point rolling your eyes like, this lady is crazy. It's just way too into this. Okay, so why I hope this class will be awesome. A few, I guess, value propositions for you of why should I care. So increasingly, there is a market for the ability to analyze social scientific data. This coincides with the sophistication of our computers and growing use of social media. So all of these companies and stuff that have these social media platforms, or even Dropbox, what else? A bunch of other things that you interact with online or on an app or on your computer. They are gathering data from those behaviors that we have interfacing with their technology, and those data are very useful. They can get a lot of information out of it: how to improve your product, what kind of advertisements might somebody who uses your product want to see. So increasingly, the ability to make sense of social science data it's a growing skill, or it's growing in importance in the marketplace. So you can go and if you know how to analyze data, go work for Instagram or Pinterest. And the computer programmers can make big, fancy, sophisticated programs, but they don't understand people the way the social scientists do, the way you all are being trained to do. And that makes a huge difference when analyzing data. So they're not just employing the computer programmers at Facebook and Instagram and all that. They need people who understand people. And so that's most likely you guys, if you're a sociology major. And so then that coincides also with the growing market of knowledge for R. So I go on LinkedIn and I check out what statistical software programs are the employers looking for, and usually it's R, because R is free. So SPSS, fine. If you know how to use R, you'll also be able to figure out how to use SPSS, because R is more complicated. So that's another reason why we're using R in this class. Okay, and then lastly, I wanted to have this set up so that it's a very flexible class, and I'll talk more about that later, but also I want to have a very welcoming format. So I want to be a resource for you. I don't want this to be, gloom and doom. Oh no, I have to take quantitative analysis. It's going to be horrible. No, I don't want it to be that. I want you to know that I'm here as a resource for you. I have TAs that are here as a resource for you as well. The book is also, it was chosen because it's very welcoming. So I don't want this to be a painful experience. I hope it's something where you learn maybe a little bit more about quantitative analysis, if not for your own use, at least for your own ability to make sense of information when you graduate. A lot of the misinformation about things that are happening now come as a result of not knowing how science works. Vaccine hesitancy is a problem that we're going to have to face because people don't know how science works. So you guys are going to learn about how science works here. And that, in fact, is something that is very unique to you all in the College of Liberal Arts and Sciences. I've taught the business students as well, and they don't have nearly as much of a knack for that kind of thing because they're not taking classes like this. So you guys actually have you're very geared towards critical thinking. So hopefully this class will be just one part of your critical thinking toolbox. And you can go off and you can consume information in a more sophisticated and efficient way after this, even if you're not using it with your job. Okay, so why is this a flexible class? It's asynchronous and it's online. So that means that we don't have specific times that we meet. I have videos that I post online and you go over it when you can. And so the reason I did that is because that's we don't always have access to computers all the time. Maybe we work, maybe we have kids. There's all kinds of things that come up in our life. And especially these days, we're in a very high distraction environment. So that's why it's asynchronous and then it's online because of the pandemic. So the key information is posted on the syllabus about the main structure of the class. And then Canvas is going to be our bread and butter in terms of where you're going to get your content for what would be the lecture, where you're going to get your quizzes, your labs. Everything is on the singular Canvas page that you all should have access to. So you're only for your lab and for your lecture, it's all just coming from the one Canvas page. And I'll send a video about how to do all that as well. So then we have weekly modules that you'll be doing. Every week, there's a lab and a quiz that goes over the chapter for the week. And you'll have to be reading along and following the chapter. That'll be one of the primary ways you're getting content from the class. Because the studies show a lot of the times people aren't watching your videos for lectures, so it wouldn't make sense for me to have this huge, long 3-hour lecture if nobody's going to watch it. So you're going to get videos from me about the key ideas, but then you're going to get a lot of information from the book. Then you have the quarterly deadlines. Those are hard deadlines for the months, the labs, and the quizzes from the previous month. So those soft deadlines keep you on track. They keep you from a crisis, and it allows me to more easily help you. And trust me, a lot of people, they didn't keep with the suggested deadlines last semester, and it was kind of a mess because those labs actually take more time than you might think. So stay on track, do everything, every week or so. Don't wait for the last couple of days, do all 4 labs because it will not work. Trust me, it will not work. But I have those quarterly deadlines in case, we have things that come up. So again, I'm just trying to be flexible. Usually it's due on Thursdays at midnight. I think that first one's actually on a Sunday. Because there's like a weird break, spring breaks weirdly early or something. So I had to switch it to Sunday. Then the other ones should be Thursday, maybe Cinco de Mayo might not be Thursday, might be Wednesday or something, but it's the last day of class. Okay, so in terms of what are you being graded on? So you have your mastery quizzes. Those are 10 points each, and there are 16 of them. And so you have one mastery quiz for each week. And the mastery quizzes are to make sure that you're paying attention to key concepts. They are open whatever resources you have. You can use the book, you can use your buddies if you want to work on it together. Doesn't matter to me. And you can take the quizzes as many times as you like. So, and then the highest score goes to your grade. So it's not maybe a standard quiz that you might have in an in-person class. This is a very open, flexible quiz that is just to make sure you're checking the key concepts. And that will be, that will make it easier for you to do the lab after. If you've done the quiz and you know the key concepts, then you're ready to do the lab. So for the labs, those are 20 points each. So they're a more important part of your grade. And there are 12 total. And then I'm going to only count 11 towards your grade. So you'll have a lowest lab that gets dropped. So if you have a mess up week or something like that, then you have that built in, that kind of oops built in. The labs are for you to practice R. So I'll also post some practice R code that lend themselves. It's basically practice for the lab. So you'll look at the practice R code and then you'll adapt that to the lab and apply it to a new situation. And then also practicing making analytic decisions you would make if you were conducting a research project. What's a hypothesis, a research hypothesis? What's a null hypothesis? What kind of test might we use in this situation? So some of it's R-based and some of it's kind of what would you do in this situation based. And I'm available to help with the labs. Of course, don't hesitate to reach out to me if you're stuck. Please, in fact, do. And so I'll talk a little bit more about that. I have these lab sessions for us as well for help. And so there's no final. The final is that you have 2 labs due on the last week. So we don't have the standard structure of a test that you might have in an in-person class. All right, so there's the weekly suggested deadlines that are listed to keep you on track. I highly recommend doing that because, as I said, if you wait to the last minute to turn in all 4 labs for the quarterly deadline, it's going to be way too overwhelming. Do not choose that path. I almost put in weekly deadlines, but I know a lot of people really rely on the flexibility of this class, so I'm not going to do that this year either. And so I'm way more able to help you if you follow the weekly deadlines. If you're not following the weekly deadlines, it's still okay. I'll still help you. I'll help anybody who needs help if I physically can. It's just a lot easier if you're kind of on track because, again, it's not a crisis. So if you're emailing me right before everything's due on the quarterly deadline, then I just might not be able to get to it is just the matter of it. But don't not reach out to me because you're worried about being behind. I don't care about that. I want to be able to help people who need it wherever they are. Okay. So enough about that. So the weekly format, how it's going to go every week, check if there are any emails from me. Then you'll read the book, whatever chapter or chapters for that week, and I'll have some PowerPoints that go along with the book. Then you should be ready to take the mastery quiz. Maybe if there's a video about some of the key concepts that would help with the mastery quiz, maybe you look at that as well. And so that'll check your knowledge of the material. And once you have an understanding of the key concepts, then you're ready to do the practice R code. And so I'll post some R code online so that you can kind of get some experience, and I'll have some explanations for what the R code is doing. And usually there's a video that goes along with the R code as well. And then with that in mind, you're ready to do the lab. Key for doing the lab, that practice R code is intended to get you ready for the lab. So if you're doing the lab and you haven't done the practice R code and you're thinking, oh my gosh, I have no idea what's going on here, this is so confusing, then go and check the R code because it's usually in there. And I do it to be helpful. So you'll have some videos and stuff and to go along with the R code to explain what's going on. So the resources are there. You just have to look for them and just kind of follow this format and you should be okay. The students last semester who had problems were the ones who weren't doing this. So I want the resources to be there for you. I'm not trying to make any tricks or anything, unnecessarily deceptive or tricky or anything like that. I just want you guys to get used to the materials that you're learning. Okay, hopefully you can see that. So there's these weekly R Hacker lab sessions that I'm going to have. These are optional, but they are recommended. So what this is essentially a virtual lab meeting kind of, where in normal times, if we were doing this in person, then we would all get together and we would have a bunch of computers and we could work through our code and I could go around and help you when you have questions, or the TA would go around and help you. But we don't have that now because of the online format. And so I wanted to have a meeting time where I'm available to help. So I'll be available from Tuesdays between 3 and 5. So every Tuesday I'll have a Zoom meeting. It'll be via Zoom, and you can just drop in if you want and ask questions, or you can stay on. And for the students who stay on, we have the audio and the cameras turned off, and then you can type a chat with me if you want to just say, hey, what is this? And just check something. Or you can say, I need some help. Can we do a virtual little breakout room? And I want to show you what I'm doing, what weird error I'm getting in R, or something like that. So I can do a private video with you one-on-one that way. Also, in these, if you did the lab and you're like, I just want to make sure I'm kind of on the right track here, can you look it over? and help me, if it's before the quarterly deadline, that's fine. Ask me to look over your labs, and I'm happy to give you some feedback before you turn it in. That's totally fine with me. Okay, and so this will allow us to share screens, and I can look at the weird R code, weird problems that you're having with R, and help you with that. So usually they're predictable problems, sometimes they're not. So if you're getting weird R code issues, do not hesitate to ask me about it, whether or not it's in the R Hacker lab session. And that brings me to another point, which is if you can't make the R Hacker lab session, I understand we all have schedules that maybe prevent us from this particular meeting time. A few things. Number one, you can always contact me and have one-on-one meetings with me. I'm always available for that. And then number two, we'll have some TAs who also have some time where you can go and ask them, some dedicated lab time, essentially, where you can just go and ask them what's going on. We don't know exactly what their schedules are yet, so I'm going to post that later. But I'm always available for one-on-one meetings if you don't want to do the lab session, and then you can check out a TA's lab session as well. Okay. So stay on track with the suggested deadlines, read the book. It's an online class. So as I mentioned, we're not doing huge 3-hour long lectures like we would in a normal class. A lot of the material you're gonna get is from the book. And then come to the virtual lab meetings or schedule one-on-ones with me. They're not required, but they help. Okay, so that is the class, the overview, and some of that will be helpful for your first quiz. And then check out the actual syllabus as well, because there'll be some stuff on there that will be helpful for your first quiz too. And there'll be some additional videos posted on how to do a lab, how to navigate the course, all of those different things that you're going to be doing. So let me know if you have any questions or comments or anything like that.